one, it's December 4th, caucus, or December 3rd, I'm sorry, our caucus at 6:30. We're moving very fast, we've got a lot of business here. So we do have two meetings. Are you prepared?
Yes.
Okay. And then I have a meeting of the whole. And Anthony, you're okay. Very good. And Chief, you wanted to do your presentation, your report. Is that okay?
Yeah, that was
to do it then?
the plan. If that's okay, if that's acceptable.
Very good. We do have an addendum for the regular council meeting, and I will need a vote on that, and then we'll just put it on a first reading because we're not quite sure where we're going with that at this point in time. Excuse me. Again, before we get even to the citizens' comments, we really have an awful lot of commentary the last meeting, which was a good thing, and everybody had their say. But I would really appreciate going back to the 3-minute time limit, or at least as close to possible. Be concise and state your piece and then move on. And I'd also like to ask the council to stick to your reports as concise as possible as well. Kind of summarize and whatever is going on in your particular environment, in your district, or if you don't have anything to report, that would be fine. You know, your opinions are important. However, let's try to limit the reports to common things that are going on in our districts, and that would be appreciated. Legislation 2014-86 is the 2014 appropriations. This is a second reading. Do you feel that we have to keep this on a second reading, or is this something we can pass today? I did not hear any questions on Monday night on this one. It seemed to be okay. Agreed, or do you want to wait just on the third reading?
I'm okay with Final Appropriations for 2014.
Me too.
Okay. Okay.
I'd like to wait for a third reading.
We do have to have these all passed by the end of December. So if we need another meeting to go over the 2015 temporary budget, we can do that, or whatever your decision is.
Madam President,
Yes.
I would like another reading for the budget for 2015 to see where we're at with this solid waste fund.
Actually, yes.
I don't know if the mayor or we got a report on back from the state on the different emails we have been getting. Where is it going to be legal for us to transfer that money? It's a good thing. I hope it is for the benefit of human services, and we should adopt it, but we have to find out if we can do it or not.
And how we do it. Irene, had you gotten any further communication from the state auditors? I saw one email this afternoon. Have you gotten anything since then?
The email that was sent by Mrs.
Yes,
Smith
yes.
yesterday.
By mistake, is that into spam or something?
Yeah, yesterday there was an email in response to my inquiry based on our meeting, whether or not it was okay. I think all council got the same email that I received.
Mm-hmm.
So she's basically, I guess, of the notion that it's a special fund and that it had to remain, excuse me, that was cold, remain as a special fund from what I interpreted from the email. We still plan to seek further information on that, just to assure that that's not just her opinion, but that it's actually the law. So.
Good, okay. All right. And
Madam
you keep
Chair.
us. Yes.
We've taken a look, and Kathy, I don't mean to steal your thunder. We've asked for review of the legislation to create that fund, and that's not yet been reviewed by the law department.
Okay. All
There were two funds. I don't know historically how far everybody goes back, but the original fund was established in 1990, Kathy?
No, it was
Correct?
before that.
Was even before that.
Before that.
And then no one can figure out where 261 came from. And it's going to take a while to see where that legislation was derived, because we have a lot of years to go through. Okay?
Got it, okay,
So
all right.
until we find that, we aren't really going to know if that's a special fund and was properly set up or not. Okay?
And if I may add to that, thank you for that. Kathy was with me when I did call down to the County Budget Commission and asked them to research it. She could not put her hands on it either. She went back to 2005. So they're going to do some further research to see exactly when was the fund established. Everything that we read will say that there's the assessment legislation, but there should be an actual legislative piece that says the council approved to set up that fund. And when you do that, you set the fund up, you tell the purpose and the name, and you also include in that what the budget would be and so on and so forth. So that's the document that they're researching for me at the county for the actual setup of the fund. They could find, I think it was 2005, when the actual assessment started. But in terms of when the fund was actually created, they could not readily put their hands. So as Attorney Blair said, that we're going to continue to research that and come up with some information, hopefully.
It would be really interesting if it turns out that the fund was established without all of that legislation.
Well, that's the proper way to do it, so I'm not sure exactly who set it up or when. And not to say that it wasn't, we just haven't seen the documentation to show that as of yet.
Okay, so we'll wait and see.
And once we find it, you understand, we have to apply the law that was in effect then, rather than the law that's in effect now. So once we find that, we'll be looking at what restrictions or methods of creation were viable at that time.
Okay,
Okay?
excellent. Okay,
One question.
go ahead.
The council does have a right to change the ordinance on a vote of council to establish a new ordinance, make a new ordinance, and pass it.
Well, when you collect funds, and I don't want to step on Irene's toes, so if I say something inappropriate, let me know, but when you're collecting funds, you have to put it somewhere. So you're not allowed to sit there and say, you know, you draft legislation to put it in your own pocket. You got to put it in the general fund, or you got to set up a special fund. Those are the two places. You can put it in a capital improvement fund. There's places that you can put it if you wanted to earmark it that way, but if it's not earmarked, it goes into the general fund. The other thing that's unique about this particular set of circumstances, anytime you do an assessment, you're always paid late, because as we all know, you're on a 6-month to 1-year deferral on the funds you receive on any property tax allocation. So poor Irene's hair will be gray by the time we're done, but I've asked her to go back and to try and give the best reconciliation that she can contrive, so that, because what happens is the first bills that came in for your solid waste collection would have to have been paid out of the general fund, because the earliest you could have possibly been funded into the special fund would have been 8 months after those taxes were started to be collected. So you would have paid January through August before you're going to get funded in September on the first wave of payments. So funds that would have come in that were earmarked to the special fund, if it had been validly set up, you would then be able to take and repay your general fund, because you will have already paid those bills to the Solid Waste Collection Authority for the first 8 months of the year.
And council has a right, with approval of full vote of confidence, to transfer the fund from one to the other fund.
Well, I think you would, but this, I think, is what gives merit to Irene's original premise, that when you're dealing this on tax assessments, this is why we don't like setting it up with special funds, because you are required to advance payment and then constantly be reimbursing yourself. And since it's being paid out of the general fund, reimbursing yourself directly from the tax collecting authority into the general fund, from an accounting standpoint, makes perfect sense. What she was trying to avoid is just what I've asked her to do, is the reconciliation is now very, very difficult.
Well, the reason I'm asking is because Mr. Bromley over there has on his Maple Heights site that the consul is, and the mayor is attempting to steal the residents' money. Well, you said about putting money in our pocket, that we don't do that, transfer funds. Well, when I was shown that, and a few people asked me about it, and I told them that it comes before council and we will designate that fund, the funds, to another fund where we're needed, which is the human services, because we don't have the funds to fund that service. So now we want to use them funds. That's what I've been saying. Correct or
Well,
incorrect?
that's, you know, I don't think caucus is the appropriate time to step into this genre. Suffice it to say that there's a duty to account for these funds. These funds have to be expended in an appropriate way. We're going to do everything that we can between the finance department and the law department to make certain that they are. And the way to do that is to make certain that you've reimbursed and that you're appropriate in reimbursing yourself from this. And it was more than an 8-month deferral this year because you didn't get your payment until November.
Correct.
This year, so that would have been an 11-month deferral. So that reconciliation, certainly the auditors aren't going to let us get away with anything. Certainly there's no effort or attempt to redirect funds from their appropriate purpose, but you've been funding payment of your trash bills from the general fund in what little I could gather from my review of this with Irene yesterday for a considerable period of time, over a long period of time. Probably probably back to the inception of this concept.
See, most of them don't know that, you know. It's just that we're not stealing money.
It's kind of a harsh word to be using
That's
because
very
we're trying
harsh,
to,
very
we're trying
harsh
to,
That's
words.
slanderous.
well, kind of, it's, we're trying to sort this all out. As Blair said, I think
Yeah.
we just have to sit back and wait to see what the law.
I mean, we've been debating this budget, and that's been part of it.
Thank you, Alex. Then we move on to 2014-88.
Madam
This
Chair,
is
I
the
have a
contract
comment
with
on that topic. My concern in all of this is that we're barking up a tree. It's the wrong tree. We're not going to be able to use these funds. Ms. Smith said in her email very directly that these funds have been collected for garbage and they're only to be used for garbage. The fund should remain as it is. If there's an overage, if there's an extra amount in that fund, then we should reduce the assessment we're charging our residents. So if we're barking up the wrong tree and holding out hope that there's something in this tree for us, then we are delaying action we could take that will be necessary down the road if we want to save some of these services. This money will not be allowed to be used for the purpose that you're talking about. That's all there is to it. It's because it's a special fund. It has nothing to do with how it was established, whether the fund's legal. Even if the money went into the general fund directly, we would still have to account for it specially and ensure that we weren't gathering an abundance of funds, charging more than is actually necessary for garbage pickup. So these funds are not going to be allocatable to the senior services. Therefore, we need to just set that aside and look at the other avenues that are legally possible. To continue to bark up this tree is going to delay necessary action. And once we find out that we are barking up the wrong tree, it'll be too late possibly to take action to save some of these services that you want to save.
Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Brownlee. Yes.
Two things. 2015, I don't think it's going to be passed tonight, number one, anyway, so we still have 2 weeks. And also, I think we should have another budget meeting between now and our next council meeting and still talk about the 2015 budget. I don't think we should just sit and then come back and want to vote on it without, again, having kind of a round table, a discussion about the 2015 budget. I would like to see a finance meeting set up to do that.
A finance meeting?
talk
Is
about
that
the
all you
budget.
want is a finance
Yeah,
meeting?
well, it could be in the committee of a whole, but at least one of the two where we can talk about it.
Well, I think we need to wait, as our council has said, and our finance director, until we get some action and also get the information from our legislation. But yes, I'm sure we all agree that we do need one more.
And I would like to get one clarification too, about something. Was the word "steal" actually used?
Stealing your funds.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Bill, was it actually used?
I don't remember. It wasn't the primary thrust of it.
Yes, you used it. It's our own choice of words.
Okay, back to 2014-88, please. And that's a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with the Board of Health to provide services for the city. And as we heard from Irene, when this first came up, we have already been assessed this debt to the county, but we can look at it as a first reading, and I would really like you to look at the contract. There are pages and pages and pages of possibilities that are probably mostly in Cleveland, as Linda mentioned previously, that you have to utilize whatever the building or the whatever it is in Cleveland, but there might be some programs that we could bring out here to Maple Heights. We have the facilities, we have the library, we have the senior center, and we could definitely utilize some of their programming. So I'd like you to look at that whole contract very carefully. We talked about the possibility of doing some additional forms. Perhaps there's something in there that we can bring in along with the city as well as the Board of Health. Ideas forthcoming as soon as you are finished with that. So this will be a first reading. There are no expenditures tonight. We do have the addendum for the regular council meeting, and the first one is the amending the codified ordinances 214-89 for the solid waste collection, and that'll be a first reading. And then also the resolution for the rainy day fund, which is 2014-90, moving that into the balance of that contingency fund into the general fund. So all I need is a motion for that at that time. Yes.
I would just like to ask, through you to the mayor.
Yes.
In amending 1060.02, could we also change the ordinance to include any of the particular work that the service department does? I went through Tanya's huge list of, actually I was looking for board ups and no copper, and I found more trash removal, and you know, we're trying to bill the homeowner, but she says that we don't bill for like the dump fees. So you have in there pickup, but I would just wonder if we could add maybe like disposal, so that if we find out that, you know, our dump fee at $200 a pop is going to be more frequent because of clean-outs and move-outs of some of these vacant homes, we might be able to either do that and or charge like a fuel charge for the same thing. So it incorporates more than just, you know, trash pickup and collection, but also disposal and any overtime that we would incur and needing to pay you guys.
Added, we want it to be amended probably.
Did you get all that I just said?
Yes, we did. Yes, we did. We got every word.
1060.
Kind of.
I was just asking
Yeah.
if you just add some stuff to it.
To 1060?
Yeah.
02?
As long as we're amending, it's amended.
And that basically is all we have tonight. Is there anything else that you'd like to bring up?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
I would like to just say again that this addendum cannot be introduced tonight. Our codified ordinances in section 220 of the legislation says that any legislation not on the regular council agenda must be submitted for the addendum on the Monday prior to the council meeting by noon. This was not submitted by noon on Monday.
There is a section that
So-
talks about the addendum.
I know, I'm reading it right
Oh, no,
now.
there's another one.
I believe Mr.
Okay, so-
Council Blair Milling also made a ruling on that the other night. when
Well,
you
if you want to
checked it.
it's written in black and white. It's right there. I just read it to you.
Well,
So if you want to
Richard-
go against our codified ordinances simply because the law director said we could in this instance, then I guess you go ahead and do so. But but let me reiterate, this is why there's a lack of trust
There is another section
among
on
the
addend-
public
on
for
addendum.
what we do up here. Because we do not even obey our own rules. There's rules for how legislation comes forward, when it's voted on, and we consistently disregard those things. People want to be able to trust that we will do what the law says we will do. Therefore, we cannot add this. And even per the sunshine laws, we have to have an agenda published 24 hours ahead of time. This was not on the agenda, published 24 hours ahead of time. We can't simply amend it on the floor. We'll be in violation also of the sunshine laws if we do so. So I please ask you to reconsider this.
There's the rules, do you have the rules with you?
No, I had an email.
Madam President,
Yes, Alex.
There is a provision on the addendum that talks about the addendum. It says that if any council person objects to
But
the addendum.
yes, it
then
comes
the
right after
motion-
what I
Can she
read.
speak, please?
I can read the
Can
whole
she
thing for
speak,
you. It's right
please?
here.
That
Mr.
the
Brownlee?
motion, all you need if someone objects is a motion and the majority of the members present makes a motion. If it passes, then they can add it to the agenda.
That's only if it meets the
Only-
Monday by noon
Only
deadline.
if someone objects to the addendum.
We haven't even met the Monday by noon
Yesterday.
deadline. So please, I'm asking you, you can disbelieve me if you want to, but I have it right here in front of me. I am reading it.
Okay,
I'm
you said it.
asking you.
Well, then I'll look. Yeah, but you know what? You're looking at a different section. I don't see.
Alex, you got a comment, please?
I was going to make the motion that we vote on bringing this up.
Well, the
Well,
motion.
that's
You'll
fine.
be in
We'll
violation
do
even of
that
the
anyway.
sunshine laws. If that doesn't matter to you, then go ahead. Just go ahead. This seems to be the attitude of this body. We do what we want, when we want. And it doesn't matter what state statutes say, what our own codified ordinances
I will
say.
get the wording by the time we do the agenda.
Okay, then I asked another compromise, Mr. President. We call a special meeting for tomorrow to vote on regulations on the addendum.
You
24-hour
can't, you
notice.
can't do that.
Okay.
Special meeting needs 24 hours notice.
Well, let's go
Then Friday.
Friday,
7 o'clock tomorrow night is
24 hours.
24 hours.
24 hours.
She's not going to be able to publish the agenda.
I can't publish it now. And the agenda, it's funny because he's talking about publishing an agenda. What, in the newspaper? We've never done that. And yet every agenda's been,
I'm stating the laws to you, okay?
well, I'm telling you that it's in the rules.
This is it.
No.
Blair, Mr. Milling, your ruling the other night and previously has been that we can't do this.
There's nothing that lacks transparency when you're presenting
I'm
a
pulling up
item
the
for
vote.
consideration by this body for first reading on an amendment to your agenda. We amend agendas for regularly scheduled meetings all the time. Special meetings have agendas that must be adhered to. Your agenda is totally flexible. You can bring it up in other business, you can make this proposal, it's only on for first reading, you will not act on it tonight other than accept it for first reading. You can have more than 3 readings if that makes this body more comfortable. You can have additional special meetings where you put it on the agenda. You can do this, but nothing could be more transparent than in an open meeting, have discussion on potential legislation that will be voted on at a later point in time.
All right, pull it up, I'm pulling it up, it's just a little slow.
At this point in time, I don't believe that we were even planning on discussing the addendum because we need a lot more information in order to even discuss it. So we can hold this off for a special meeting, another committee of the whole, and just combine all of the questions that we have. So I have no problem with that.
It's John, I'm see it, I'm just, it's just hard on the phone.
Can we afford batteries for the clock?
I asked
Well,
her
it's-
before, I
We
got.
don't use the room
6:59.
anymore, so.
Oh, okay.
So,
I just got put before the firing squad when I asked that question last time.
Oh, see, I forgot the answer.
we have the time.
Still not.
6:59.
6:59.
How much?
6:59.
So when did you decide we're going to hold on for a special meeting?
No,
Here it is.
no, I'm listening to Mr. Miller.
Wait a minute,
Okay,
wait a
rules of
minute, here we
order.
go. This is like Dan Rapid, you know, nightly news interrupted. What's speeding?
I'm going, so keep it there. Gonna be good if we keep it somewhere.
We could go down and I'll find it before, we won't.
Keep her copies. And this bill somewhere, be something like this.
All right, meeting
Goes to the file
absences.
cabinet. Bring it up.
The rule is you can't vote on it. That you can't possess. I have a question for you.
As long as what the, I want to know what it says. What I'm gonna say. To say we can't. we
I'm
can't.
pulling it up.
I have it right here.
I know, but there is another section.
Yeah, it
that talks
says if a
about-
member of council objects to any proposal, that's what we're talking about, right? That's
Read
right
that.
there.
If the member
If a member of
objects,
council objects to any proposed legislation on the addendum, it shall require a majority vote of those in attendance to consider that legislation.
right,
But
That's
just
exactly
before,
what we're doing
I know,
tonight.
but right before that, it says to make it on the addendum, it has to be submitted.
that's, except that there's a rule that says council can change the agenda by motion.
You interpret it that way if you like.
No, that's law director.
It's very cut and dry. You guys will do what you want, you always do. So, I mean, there's no need to delay any longer.
John said with the motion, you're fine.
So we done?
Yes, we are.